now I have to go off topic because I have you here. The do you find that you get good playwrights from MFA programs
Sure.
as well as
Sure.
this way also?
Absolutely.
That that somewhere somebody's teaching playwriting well, or is that? Here's a question: is that an innate talent of a playwright, or is it a learned talent?
Well, I can't answer that, but fortunately Aristotle did. And what he said was that the gift for metaphor is the one thing that cannot be taught, that has to be innate in a writer. And if you expand that idea just a little bit more and say the poetic voice, the actual beauty of the language, I've never seen anybody learn that from somebody else. I've seen people encouraged to unleash that, but I've never seen anybody learn that. But everything else about playwriting can be learned. It can be taught sometimes, but it can be learned. It's a craft.
So once you've picked a piece, what's the next step? And if you want to talk about a specific project, if that helps sort of explain this arc, this process, that's fine. Or just in general, is the next step a reading, a workshop, going to their apartment and talking to them?
When we are successful at developing a piece, it's because the development process is entirely manufactured to that piece and what that piece needs at any given point in time. We have a bunch of tools, from going over to people's houses to doing readings to doing workshops to just meeting and having a beer to having formal dramaturgical sessions, to probably the most useful thing that we do is to put up a show for anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks in front of an audience and just let all of us learn from that. So we have all of these tools, but the real, I think the success and the pleasure of it is trying to figure out exactly what this project needs at what moment. And we're having some problems now, for example, because we've gotten a lot bigger in the last few years, and which is great, right? But one of the problems that carries with it is things have a development in particular. There's a danger of there becoming a set pattern for how we develop something. And because now there's not too many projects for us to be sort of mom and pop store about everything. But a set pattern is deadly. That's not how you really unleash an artist. You unleash an artist by responding to them and figuring out. So we're trying to figure out how we can increase the volume of what we're doing, but maintain that very specific couture attitude. And it's hard, but it's fun to try and figure it out.
Yeah, right. In a funny way, what I asked you is exactly what can't be answered, because every process is different.
That's exactly right.
Each time.
That's exactly right. And, I think about Angels, which was, I'd been doing dramaturgy for a few years before I commissioned Angels in America, but that was sort of, sort of the best play I ever commissioned. It was pretty good. And that took there was 6 years of development from the time that we wrote the grant application to the National Endowment for the Arts to get the grant to commission. Angels in America was commissioned by the federal government. Let nobody forget that. The NEA back then could give grants to individual artists, so they gave Tony $25,000 to write Angels. And from that moment to the moment we opened the whole thing in LA was 6 years. And in that 6 years, the way two things we're saying. The way I defined what I was doing was blocking downfield for Tony and basically seeing any obstacle that was in the way of him continuing to write the play and bowling it over with probably an illegal helmet first tackle. No, it was just making sure he had the path to do it. And sometimes that was getting him money, sometimes that was getting workshops, sometimes that was recasting. It was whatever was necessary to get us there. And then what Tony wrote very generously is he said the play, he tried to explain what dramaturgy was in the postscript to Angel. He said, the best way to say it is the play was written in conversation with Oskar. Yeah. And literally, we were and remained best friends and became so in the process of working on shows together and discovering how much not just that we had in common, but how much we were equally curious to learn and eager to pursue. And you know, you can't formulate that. First, make the playwright your best friend. But it happened.